Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. Let's continue the comic translations, and let's do the only one featuring 10H. She was added very late to the game. I want to reassert here that the next Recollections of Dusk I will translate is hers, and also I want to do an overview for her similar to Noelle's. I would actually like to do one or both before the Nier 15th anniversary, so this will be the last comic translation for a while. I'll work on the 10H videos next. The script for the overview video is pretty much done, but I've been putting off making the video because, as always, with that type of video, it takes lots of editing and work. So the title of the comic translates to "In an Instant." In the first panel, we hear a voice off-panel saying, "It's 10H's Crank In, welcome her to the set." What this is the set of a TV show or a movie, and on an actor's first day on set in Japan, the director or someone else will announce the arrival of the actor, and everyone will applaud, and the actor will give a little greeting. This is pretty typical for Japanese workplaces, often happening now, early April, and in the case of TV shows or movies, it's called a crank in. Mama, Fio, and Lavanya clap, 10H bows, and says, "I'll try not to be a burden on everyone else." Again, the sound of everyone's applause is pachi pachi, and the sound of 10H's bow is pekori. Pekori can also be said as peko or peko peko if you are bowing multiple times. And peko peko can also be used to say one is hungry. The idea of a stomach like denting in because it's empty, I guess, is similar to someone denting their body, bending it in half. Second panel, the caption says 8 hours later, and again, the voice off-panel says, "It's 10H's Crank Up, thank you very much." On the last day of shooting on a set for an actor, it's called a crank up. Everyone again claps, the actor gets a bouquet of flowers, and they give a little greeting again. This is also typical for Japanese workplaces. I've received my share of bouquets. But in this case, it's called a crank up. This time we see the sound effect gusu gusu. This is the sound of stuffed noses to go with the tears. 10H is shocked and she says, "What? It's over already?" I like how the positions of everyone is the same as the first panel, but Mama and Fio's claps are less forceful and Fio's leash is pointed downwards, as if to show it we're also sad. But Lavanya is totally unchanged, like he is unaffected. That's very true to his character. Third panel, Fio hands the bouquet to 10H, crying, "Win!" That's the sound of crying out loud, and the panel is dripping with tears, which is out of proportion with how long they have been together. But it goes to show how pure-hearted Fio is, and I think a lot of players developed a strong attachment to 10H in her short time in the story. I certainly did. Fio says, "10H, thanks for everything." 10H is taken aback by how affected Fio is, and says, "Thanks, we didn't really have any scenes together." Last panel, Mama, Fio, and Lavanya leave 10H, and Mama, with the pod shadow, says, "Let's go, we have part 3 to shoot. 10H wanted to join us." Fio cries, "10H," and Lavanya says, "Ch, we have so many lines." Again, very in character for everyone. 10H breaks the fourth wall literally here by turning to us, the reader, and placing her hand on the panel edge, saying, "I hope you enjoy the next part of the story," and under her breath she says, "I can't believe this is it for me." And then interesting how this is formatted. Previously things said to oneself were handwritten, but here it's in parentheses in the speech bubble. Maybe there was no room for handwritten text, or maybe it wouldn't have worked as well breaking the panel. But yeah, this speaks to kind of 10H's very brief appearance in the story of the game. An important part, but a brief part, and then like the writer of this comic is acknowledging just how short it is. And then this is a funny, fictional representation of how a video game is made. We know that it is programmed in by developers, but in this comic, the characters exist outside of the game, and they are only playing parts, similar to how 2B, 9S, and Nier were represented in a previous comic. It's a fun idea to think that we have a private look or like a personal connection to these characters beyond the game. And also, I like the presentation of Fio as snot-faced, self-absorbed, too serious, and slightly overbearing. It's a funny contrast to her in-game character, which is more angelic, and she's kind of the main comedic driver in this comic. 10H is funny too, but in a way more similar to her in-game character. She's definitely the outsider of the whole cast. She sees things more from a bird's eye view, and she's kind of the proxy or stand-in for us, the player. From her reading the stories of the other characters, to her sensing the absurdity of the situation in this comic. Very cool comic here, and then from now I'll start to work on 10H's videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Take care.